Welcome back to Wicked Wednesdays with Just Kaitlyn. I am here with the amazing Karsten. We are actually video chatting this interview due to quarantine purposes. We got to keep our 6 feet space. I think we have pretty drastic distance between us via phone connection. So, Karsten, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. Like Kaitlyn said, it is Wednesday, hump day. My mental health is really well. I played around a disc golf today and got outside. So we are surviving this, and I'm just grateful to actually communicate and talk to friends. So thankful for technology during these times.
Nice. And I always love your positive vibes. I'm happy to have you here, man. You know, this episode actually, flip of the switch here, Karsten is going to be interviewing me, Just Kaitlyn.
I am. We had this great idea of talking at one of the shows that we've both attended. And I was telling Kaitlyn, I think it's great how you've done all these interviews and finding the talent with, people within our scene and outside of our scene. And I think it's just really cool. But who's going to interview you when the time comes? And she said, well, obviously that's going to be you. And I was kind of laughed. I was like, oh, funny. And then she was serious about it. And I think it's just really great. So.
Well, I am happy to have you here, man. And I feel honored to actually have you interview me because, I don't think anybody could have done a better job than you at this. So, Maestro, I will let you take the lead.
Absolutely. My name is Karsten. I'm part of the Cincinnati hardcore DIY scene. I book shows locally, and that's kind of how me and Kaitlyn met. One of shows that Q put on at his house was the first time that Kaitlyn and I met. And I believe she actually played that show and did her solo set. And I found instant connection with her music like I do so many local artists. And from then on, I just had more questions for her. I wanted to connect with her, and I wanted to know more about, what inspires you. So today I've prepared a couple questions that focus around Kaitlyn Collins' music, and I think that it'll be a lot of fun. So with that being said, Kaitlyn, let's start with the most simple and obvious. Why does music mean so much to you?
Music has been a very big part of my life since a very young age. Growing up, I've had the pleasure of having a lot of role models around me who are musicians, who love music in general. I aspire to be just like my dad. My dad has been in the same band since he was 16. Him and his buddies formed this group called Diverse Union, native from Middletown, Ohio. And, growing up as a little Katy cat, I always saw my dad playing guitar and singing, and that really inspired me to want to be just like him, honestly, and grow into it. I loved the feel of it. They would have practices in the basement. They would have band practices in the garage, always have get-togethers, even do house shows sometimes at my house. So imagine like a little 4 or 5-year-old kid rocking out to their dad's music. So it was always awesome seeing that growing up. And music has saved my life multiple times throughout my 26 years of being. I love music. It allows me personally to express a lot of emotions, a lot of ideas and tendencies that I necessarily can't put precise words to per se. Music actually is love to me, and I think this world needs more love. We need more music.
I think definitely that fits you really well too, because anybody who does know you knows that you are genuine, and your authenticity, personality is just so loving and good vibes and positiveness all around. I mean, I don't know what happens in your alone time, but I've never seen you angry. I've never seen you disgruntled. It's just so much positivity into the worst of things. So I definitely see
it takes a lot to get me amped up there, man. But I definitely try to see the best in people. So.
Oh, best in people is all that you can look for, because there's so much evil in the world. So why would you look for it when it's right in front of you? You have to find the joy with everything. So speaking of your parent, your father, and I know you've even touched with me that your papa was definitely one of the biggest reasons that got you into music, and a little background of you growing up in a music household. With that being said, what inspires your music? Who were the artists or, bands, I should say, that, led you to say, when I wanted to be a songwriter and do all this and play guitar, piano, what were your influences growing up besides them?
So when I was about 5, if you were to ask me what my favorite band was, I would stick out my tongue and I would say, Kiss. And I would just say that wholeheartedly because, like I said, my father was in the same band. So he was a rocker, still is a rocker. And I had the pleasure of being raised around amazing music. So when I grew,
what we're understanding is that your father is a member of Kiss. Got it.
No, I actually think he would love me if I did some of Gene Simmons' face makeup on him. I remember one time he had me straighten his hair for a show and he freaked out. But that would be awesome. Dad, if you're watching this, I'm going to have to give you some Kiss face paint because you're the newest member rendition of Kiss. I imagine they'll have another final tour soon. So, But apart from Kiss, growing up in my preteen phase where I really noticed I liked poetry, I loved reading, I loved anything that involved around literacy. I really looked up to Hayley Williams in Paramore. She was awesome. She still to this day is one of my favorite vocalists, and just her lyrics, her heart, and her emotion, the way that she portrays herself is such a powerful presence. And, I've actually been blessed to have the experience of seeing her backstage with her band prepping to go out onto the stage and just seeing the way that she motivates her band and seeing how she is and her body energy. It's very inspiring. And I learned from a young age to really look up to her. I was one of those cool kids that had one of the MP3 players. Mine was red and gray and bulky. That was before the iPods came out and all the iPhones and stuff. So I was that kid that had those little clip chips that you put into those things and would play little parts of songs. I was one of those as well.
How many could you collect in a short amount of time? I remember those silly bands, all those different things that we went through, and especially in those early years.
I would have them all the way up to my top of my elbow almost. That's how much I would wear.
If you didn't have 25 of them, you weren't considered a real emo kid. That's an end of story.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's hilarious that you understand the silly bands. I think I still have a box of mine somewhere. But back to the artist, Hayley Williams was definitely a big one for me. Also, she's not really known, but Leslie Roy. When I was 15, I saw her live, and it was amazing. Her lyrics are just very inspiring for women all around the world, to really love yourself. Modern media and our youth really don't have the pleasure of being raised without technology right in their faces. And with that technology, you see a lot of push towards sexualization, or, they show this perfect person, or you have to wear this makeup, or buy this perfume, or have this in your home, or make sure you look just like this body figure, or you're considered not perfect. And they mold this mental image of how they think you should look like, and they don't really push for individuality. It's like they want us all to be robots or something. So sure. It's hard really to steer the youth of today's time away from that. But, I was blessed to say I was raised without a cell phone in my face. And Leslie Roy's lyrics really speak out. Tell me what makes me unbeautiful, what makes you not proud of me, what basically makes you feel that I'm not good enough because I know that I'm good enough. And that at a young age, hearing those words just really stuck to my heart. I was bullied at a young age. I was that alt girl in middle school. We had to wear uniforms, and they were just really baggy t-shirts. So I always, being a style queen, I found ways around that to make it very funk alt. I would wear fishnets on my arms. I had like 3 shirts that were fishnets, and I would alternate them. And some days, if I didn't want to wear my fishnets, I had armbands that were pink and black striped, purple and black striped. I would mismatch them, match them some days, and just kind of be funky. And I always wore skinny jeans. Still to this day, I only wear skinny jeans. I have one pair of authentic bell bottoms from the 70s, so that's the exception. So
Shout
I
out.
always had my studded belts. I never wear them through my belt loops. I always wear them outside of my belt loops. If you've seen me, you know that I do
Oh,
that.
I mean, that's how you were supposed to wear them. The checkered studded ones from Spencer's and Hot Topic. I mean, that was the style. You have to wear them outside of your belt loops, and it was an accessory piece, and it was just a style. And I think even today, I still love seeing that vibe from people.
Yeah, awesome. And honestly, with that being said, like the world needs more individuality. You know, everyone is born unique, inside and out. You know, we're the same species, but we're all different. We all need to learn to embrace that and help empower others around us. And I really always looked up to artists that really spoke that out to me. One band in particular that still pulls at my heartstrings that I will always know that inspired me to be more of like indie. I have to shout out Mayday Parade. Mayday Parade grew with me as I grew with music. I've seen Mayday Parade live 36 times. Now, you might think that's excessive, but I remember the first day I listened to Mayday Parade, I was 13, and I was with my friend Ryan at the time, and we were at her house, and we were on MySpace Music, and we were like, oh, Mayday Parade, who's this? And we clicked on their page and listened to him, and I was like, oh, my gosh, like, this is amazing. Like, I love them. And I knew from a young age that I wanted to go see them live, and I remember the first time I went to Bogarts was actually to see Mayday Parade, and that was a beautiful time. And my dad actually took me and my friend to the show because we were like 14 and he didn't trust us for good reason, you know, this crazy society that we live in. So my dad was like way in the back while I was way in the front enjoying Mayday Parade. And I followed them for years, and still to this day, if they come around locally or close state-wise, I will always journey to go see them. They're amazing.
Mayday Parade is definitely one of those bands that you can feel their music, and it's music that you can feel with their lyrics, with their style, and definitely growing up. I mean, like we said, we're in our mid and late 20s, both of us, and that was the emo kid in all of us that we still today love. And I just remember they've done everything accomplished from, Jamie All Over, Jersey. They've just released an album not too long ago called Sunnyland, and they cover topics between, heartbreak, depression, and their Warped Tours accomplishments. I mean, everybody knows who Mayday Parade is, and I think that it's always a guilty pleasure for some people, but definitely a go-to. And speaking of music that you can feel like them, are there any other bands or artists specifically that say I connect to them and I feel their music, whether it be, hardcore or just independent artists?
Bon Iver. Bon Iver is amazing, and the emotion behind the vocalist's voice, it brings me to tears, honestly, when I listen to him a lot. And my friend Jake Cox, he's an amazing musician, and I want to invite him into our Cincy family, Northern Kentucky family music scene. I think he is a great comparison to the vocalist Bon Iver. His voice is just amazing and definitely moves me. So if I'm at home, I'm drinking tea and I'm cleaning, or if I'm just relaxing and want to just have a good day, I'll start out my day by listening to some Bon Iver and just play my YouTube playlist mix based off of Bon Iver artists. And that's how I also find a lot of new indie musicians, new folky musicians like Bon Iver. So they're definitely one for me. Another one would be Bring Me the Horizon. Bring
Mm-hmm.
Me the Horizon is impeccably amazing to me. I remember my iPod Shuffle, like those little like ones that had like the screen on the top and the circular, you had to play the arrows and then like the stop button at the top. I had an orange one, and I specifically remember like having 40 Bring Me the Horizon songs. Just I've always had this crazy curly hair, so walking down the hallways at school, I would always have my headphones in, blaring Bring Me the Horizon. I wouldn't even hear anybody, and they would be talking to me, and I'm just, bobbing, walking along, listening to Bring Me the Horizon, and people would be like, what is she doing? And they'd get really close and hear me, and be like, oh, okay, it's just Kaitlyn.
Growing up alternative and my transitioning into music, I remember my big influences when I first started listening and getting into the more alternative and progressive stuff was definitely My Chemical Romance, Linkin Park, and Rise Against were my first three. And I think from there, segueing into more hardcore and all the genres around it, metalcore, deathcore, blackcore, just core, everything. Asking Alexandra and Bring Me the Horizon. I think those two bands, especially growing up in a Christian household, that was the first time I was like, this is secular music, this is rebel music. And there was just something about it that excited me. And just hearing, non-Christians lyrically, and yet they still Ollie Skies was one of the ones that, he definitely talked bad about God, but he was still mentioning him within their songs and their early stages. And I just thought it was still cool to kind of see that and progress that. And to see where Bring Me the Horizon is now, and especially him, the transformation has been huge. And they are one of the, I'll call it the honor band if you can ever see them live, which I believe you and I have both seen them once. Similar to Every Time I Die, it's a bucket list band to see because they don't tour often, and when they do, they put on beyond a show. It is a performance, and it is there's no words to describe it.
I agree completely. Last January, I had the pleasure of seeing them live for the first time with Michael Metz and Mandy Garvin, and my favorite Bring Me the Horizon song is Blessed with a Curse. And that's kind of a loophole for them to play live, so I definitely did not expect them to play that live. Ollie Sykes literally was right in front of me. The song started, I had my phone out recording the song prior. I literally put my phone down and just looked up into his soul. Like I could feel his soul as he was singing that song, and it brought me to tears. I literally was moved so much by that song and that performance of that song that I cried, and he like reached his hand out to me and like touched me, and I was so touched. Literally at that moment I cried even more because I got to touch Ollie Sykes. So
And mine was either Warped Tour or a similar festival. I can't recall because it was a couple years ago at this point, but I definitely remember him coming out and walking on top of the audience. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google walking on audience members hardcore and you'll see thousands of videos, but just people holding up their hands and him walking on the hands into the crowd and then just screaming the choruses of them. And especially with their progression, I mean, on their early stages, he did songs with people. Lights was a great one where he did songs kind of like Bless the Fall did with her, and just having cleans and a female style to get that recognition and that good balance. And I think that's something that was always underappreciated growing up because people always tended to say, oh, I can't stand clean vocals. If it's not all screamed, it's not for me. But it's just that it's so much more talented when you collaborate with other people. And I know yourself, you've collaborated with a few people, and you've also done everything from, rap to pop, and what people may or may not know about you. You were actually in a band, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was. I'm currently working on a couple of side projects as well, apart from Just Kaitlyn. I am Just Kaitlyn, the solo act. It's what I mainly perform with. Those are to be announced, not mentioning yet in the video. But yeah, when I was in high school, I actually was in a band. I was the lead singer, vocalist. We were called Seraphim. Seraphim means blessed angel fallen. So it definitely was an amazing theme to really sing about. If I were to compare our styles, it would be like Amy Lee Evanescence mixed with Haley Williams. Bam. And then, you got to pull out the Cassie from Flyleaf, that stage presence too. Those were three really big leading metal ladies that were inspirational to me, honestly, growing as a group. And we were great. We did a couple of originals and we did a few covers. Honestly, 3 Days Grace, Never Too Late. I remember singing that one and like annihilating that song. That one was one of my favorite covers to sing. But we actually sadly had a falling out because I had a boyfriend in high school. I only had one boyfriend in high school. I dated him from my freshman year to the end of my junior year. And it was my junior prom, and the drummer of my band asked me to prom. And I said, well, my dude, I have a boyfriend. I'm going to prom with him. And he just got like really upset, and it was just very strange. So he was like, yeah, I'm too good for this. I'm too good for this, man. I don't need it. And then like dropped out. So it was like fun, very not short-lived because we were together for a while, but like it was a cool group, and it was a nice experience all in all. That guy never played drums again, from what I know. So, yeah.
And let the record reflect, too, relationships with band members never work. Unless your name is Brian and Rebecca from Wisconsin La Crosse and your band is called Rig Time, do not date band members within your band. It never ends well. That band will go down in flames, and it will be very bad. So stay in your lane, drummers, bassists, guitarists, and frontmen. But we forget that bands have bassists a lot of times.
Oh, no.
But
we need bass players. They help set the rhythm with the drummers.
But would you notice if there wasn't bass? Probably. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. As well as that, and especially we're talking about, your influences and, all the progression that you've done, and your style that we know of with Just Kaitlyn is anything but hardcore. You do a lot of covers, you do a lot of your poetry and your writings, and where do you see your music going? What are some of your goals within Just Kaitlyn, or even as yourself as an artist?
So I definitely aspire to continue to grow and be a multi-genred artist. I think it's very awesome being a multi-genred artist, going out and helping out any aspects, whether that be me playing my acoustic guitar and rapping, which I've done rarely at shows. How to Love Lil Wayne, I could break that one down pretty well. Or whether it be me actually up there reading my poetry itself with, drums and instrumental background that I've created, which I intro with for my shows, Just Kaitlyn. I actually intro with a piece I wrote about the world and the way that we live in. I just want to grow with that. I want to push the message for self-love because I feel like that's very lost in this society, sadly. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of today's youth don't really get that push, be yourself, be unique, because you're beautiful inside and out. So I really want to help inspire younger kids. I have a lot of younger family members that do look up to me, and I want to help inspire them. I want to continue playing shows, maybe touring more with shows. I've only done like 2 tours. I want to tour more. I also eventually want to own my own music venue. I think that would be amazing. I am an entrepreneur, business personnel. I've actually owned my own hookah bar. That's another story for another day. But that was a great experience, very, very nice. And I learned when I was 21 how I could functionally run a business and be profitable with that. And, I think it's important to apply your talents and your capabilities into your work so you really don't feel like you're working. So I think my younger sister also has a business degree, and I think we're going to collab together and have a music venue. Location to be announced, I'm not speaking of, but it's not going to be in Cincinnati. So,
And it's
yeah.
not going to be in Colorado because I've had this debate privately with you, and Colorado has too many people and too many things, and you just don't. It's a beautiful state, but it's closed. Everything that they have, everything that they would ever need ever now. But that's a inside joke on our end, and with that too, those goals that you have and your positive attitude, you've always been one to push forward. You've been pushing boundaries, you've been breaking the limits. But I know, like you and me and any other human being, there's been moments of discouragement, distress. Not to get too much away from your story of it, but you recently tried out, I believe it was last year, for American Idol. And
Yes.
within that process, you did the process, you went down to Nashville, and you shot your shot just like millions, tens of millions of others have in the past years of that show, and ultimately did not make it through to the live performances or to the judges necessarily. But yet, that didn't discourage you. You came back, and your attitude was just like, I didn't make it, so what? So what other than that, have you ever had moments and personally that you just said, I'm done. I can't go through with this. I'm not going to continue anymore. I need a hiatus. Where was your, or do you have any I quit moments?
So before I harp on that, let me talk about American Idol a little bit. So that journey really meant a lot to me as a whole. My grandfather, my papa, he passed away last February. He was a very big inspiration to do music in my life. He always said, you're going to go and you're going to be on American Idol. You're going to go and you're going to be a star, regardless if you go on there or not. Like, he always wanted to see me on that show. And he always watched, like, The Voice. And he always told me, you need to be on American Idol. You've got this. And so last year, losing my papa in February, shortly after, I actually signed up to audition for American Idol because I really wanted to live that journey through for him and for myself. And, going there, it was awesome. It was a great experience all in all. And it's very different than what you see on TV, though. Like, you wait in a line with thousands of people. I think there were like 6,000 people that ultimately auditioned for American Idol at Nashville that day. We were fortunate to be one of the first 100 people. We went pretty early, but you actually have to initially talk to 3 levels of producers. I made it past the first 2 levels of producers. And what I mean by that is you're introed once you enter the building. Your family has to go wait in another arena, basically. And you're intro to producers, and they look at your story because you have to write a story of why you wanted to come. They read it, they look at you, and they say, what's your name? Why are you here? Okay, yes, you can go, or no, we're going to have to hold on, maybe next year. Right away, as soon as you go in there. So I made it past that part, and then you get introed into a big group, and then you're put in groups of 4. And you are literally in a room with 800 people, and you sing in groups of 4 in front of 3 different producers. So you go one at a time in those groups of 4, and they either say 1 and 2 you can go, 3 and 4 you have to go. No, I made it past the first round of that. So that was I was feeling fire. I'm like, okay, I got this. I can do this. And when I got to the 3rd round, it was in front of my family, and I was excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, yay, we got this. And when I sang, they told me, they're like, you have an amazing voice, but you're not Carrie Underwood, and we're looking for the next Carrie Underwood. You are too punk. Those were their specific words. So I was just like, wow. But it's okay because it was a great experience. So in that moment, I didn't really want to give up with my art. I just kind of, it was a weird discouragement. It was they already had this idea of what they wanted at that place, and I wasn't too disappointed. If I do audition again, it'll be in Chicago or something. But that was one that kind of was weird. But at a young age, like I mentioned earlier, I was bullied pretty bad. I had people I thought were my friends. One in particular, she told all of the people that I thought were cute Now, keep in mind, I'd only kissed a boy once at this point in the 7th grade, and I was still nervous. I'm like, who is this? What? Go away. Like, I'm still figuring myself out. I played soccer, but I also played music. I was first chair clarinet in the band. I had straight A's. I wrote tons of poetry. Like I said, I always wore my alt clothing, so I was very unique, and that was different. I wasn't like every other person in that grade that, was very in their own cliquey areas. I loved everyone. I always did. And I used to get pushed into lockers and be told that I'm a waste of space and go kill yourself. And just at a young age, like, people are so mean. And, I almost did kill myself. And I used to cut. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I said, you know what, you are worth it. One day you're going to grow up, you're going to have a beautiful family, you're going to have kids, and you need to live for yourself and for your family, because gosh darn it, if you're gone, then you're going to break not only your heart, but everyone around you's heart. So I pushed myself with that motivation. Another one that really broke me down in life, I lost my business, my hookah bar that I mentioned earlier. I lost a very deep part of myself that was forming, and that's all I'm going to say about that, because I still to this day get emotional if I think about it. And I felt like I was at my lowest of low at 21, and I needed a fresh start, but I didn't know what to do. I actually was living in my car for a period of time. And I would cry every day, and I thought, what is the point in going on? Like, I have money. I don't know where I can go with this money. I don't know what to do. I was freaking out. I'd lost a very big part of myself and something else, and it was crazy. So I almost ended it right there. And I, again, looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, you know what? You are worth it. You deserve to have a good life. You are one day going to have a big family. You're one day going to meet the love of your life and just flourish and, grow with your music. Because I always knew in my core that music was what really kept me going. I honestly wouldn't be anywhere without music, and saved myself again. The third time that I really almost ended it all, I was actually working in a fashion industry called New York and Company, and I was a very, very high up, I would consider, in the district at the time. I would travel and I would work as a store manager, but I was also an auditor, and I would audit what was wrong within each store, and I was my district manager's right-hand man. And she was a very crooked woman. She would steal from the company and blame other managers, and basically wanted me to have her back for it. And it was very twisted. And when I caught her the first 2 times, I really didn't do anything. The third time, it almost ended on me, where she tried to blame me. And, I walked out. That night before that all happened, I had a dream that I walked out of my job, and I was like, why would I ever do that? I love my job. I like what I do. And that very next day, I walked into work, and that happened. And it's very weird. And I went home, and I remember just feeling very low. I just walked away from my job. I've always been such a hard worker. I've always made sure I can provide for myself. Ever since I was 18, I've worked 40 hours a week, and that's just something I personally set for myself. I like to work hard. I feel a sense of accomplishment with that, whether it be me managing at Cracker Barrel, or managing at New York and Company, or managing in phone industries now. I've always strived myself on my work ethic. So just doing that, I got really low on myself. I did my own sense of means of relaxation, and I just remember breaking down and crying. And I think I called my sister and told her, like, if I die, if I go anywhere, I want you to have everything. And she's like, what? I was like, I'm losing it right now, sis. And, I don't have episodes, but I do have depression. And sometimes I get really deep in my heart and my feels, and I really feel like there's no escape. And that's how I felt in that moment. And I remember actually looking at myself in the mirror again and saying, okay, Kaitlyn, you are worth it. Why are you at this point again? Why do you feel so low? You know, you can pick yourself up because, you know, at the end of the day, we are the only person that we are going to have in this life indefinitely, forever. So we have to learn to have our own back. And I think it's important to really learn to love yourself. And if you have faults that you're not happy about, whether it's your actions or something that's out of your control, you know, life is about choices that we make. And a lot of those choices aren't made by us. It's made by other people. But we either have to conform to those choices or steer away from those choices. And, you know, either outcome is either going to build you or knock you down. But it's up to you on how you're going to react with that. So I think it's important to really learn to how to, you know, love yourself just the way you are, because you're perfect.
Absolutely.
Chick-fil-A, eat your chicken fresh, yeah. Although I don't agree with all their ideas they instill with the world today. You should love everyone just the way they are, whoever they love, however they want to portray themselves. But Chick-fil-A has damn good food, so help yourself and go through that drive-thru. You do not have to go inside. But I definitely recommend Chick-fil-A. I get their #1 combo with their waffle fries, and I always dip my sandwich and my fries in their Chick-fil-A sauce. It's amazing.
So, in talking about that as well, and just kind of the segue of like your lows and you definitely going through, you know, giving up moments, and with just Kaitlyn and a lot of your music as well. If you're anything like me, and just to touch on it again, I am a writer and mental health advocate, and I do a lot of blogs and Mental Health Monday posts. And within my writings, I found out it's more of a therapy for me, and it's something that helps me help other people. And it's kind of a double win sword on that front of me expressing my feelings, being transparent, and definitely allowing other people to hear it and say, I agree with you, or I felt this way too. Would you say that how is music for you within songwriting and playing your therapy and your coping mechanism?
That's a very good question. My grandfather, my papa, told me if I'm ever sad, pick up my guitar. If I'm sad, play a song and speak your heart through that guitar. Speak your emotion instead of acting on that emotion. And you know, I was taught that at a young age, so I really kind of self-disciplined myself through that. A lot of my lyrics I write about aren't specifically about relationships. They're really about my self-experiences. And I know like some of the songs can sound like it's about love, like for instance, my Santeria, calling me home, back to the place I've always known, you're drowning me out, fading me out, Santeria, I'm going now. That ultimately is about, well, let me just show you how I wrote that song. So I was actually at a park in my hometown, Middletown, and I ate some pretty fun fungi, and I was in another mindset. I don't do that a lot, but near the skate park in my hometown. And, you know, a lot of that park reflects my youth. Like I said, when I was younger, I would hang out at the skate park. I would skate a bit, apart from being very academic strong. I loved skating and, you know, biking, anything, playing Dance Dance Revolution, Guitar Hero. But that song really kind of spoke to me, and it was just about, like, I honestly pictured Santeria as being a street in, like, California and stuff. I didn't know what Santeria meant at the time writing that song, but for some reason that phrase like popped in my mind, in my heart, and I just felt so strongly about it that I had to write a song about it in particular. And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, this is my ancestors, my family that has passed on, that has really been like trying to call to me, or maybe it's not, maybe it's something else. But you know, one thing I know for certain is I know that my papaw is still watching down over me. And if I could, I would love to call him and tell him about my dreams I had. He was always one I could speak about that. But since I can't, I write it all down now. So writing and poetry and singing and playing guitar, playing piano, any instrument I pick up, it's about expressing myself. And I really feel like a lot of my lyrics come from my heart. Maybe it is I'm writing about a heartbreak I had. You know, I've only had 6 relationships my entire life. So it's a big thing, honestly. I've always really put my all into care, and you know, I still reflectively know everyone that I've given a beauty part of my body to, and that's a very genuine thing to have. And I think I put a lot of that into my music as well, just self-expression.
That's really awesome. And it's definitely amazing to see how much something that you do that is so positive to other people transplays and helps benefit you as well. And to see, like you talked about, with self-harm, with self-doubt and depression, and, you know, those negative thoughts, overcoming them through a form of sensory with music, and just being able to have an outlet that's used in a positive manner for yourself and the world. And I think that's something that's really great. And people, once you find what it works for you, for me, it was skateboarding and mosh pits, and then my writings later on down the road. So, Kaitlyn, to end here, I do have a fun question and kind of, you know, something that's going to be a positive story to tell you or give advice to other viewers. You know, you are a female artist. You've been in bands before as a female artist. And I think there's a lot of formerly tabooness with female artists and within music, and, you know, no girls in mosh pits, or you can't do this, or females can't scream. So many things that people say, you know, same thing as I would even say, you know, women pastors, you can't do this, and negative outlooks on just women with music. And I know that there's a lot of young girls out there who, you know, have these dreams that aren't to become a neat teacher or a nurse, or they have dreams of pursuing music. How would you say, or what advice would you give them to say, be yourself and continue to do this if you have the heart for it?
Any emotion that you feel, write it down. Any dream that you've had, any thought towards something, write it down. If you feel it, express it in some sense and grow with that. I know a lot of my writing style, I actually go to my guitar first and I'll think of something and I'll play it, and then the lyrics just flow mentally. Or sometimes I'll have a really good, like, you know, poem riff that I like, that I've written, and I'll go to my keyboard and I'll play it on keyboard and I'll think of something to go with that. But, you know, a lot of my writing comes from just going to my instrument when I feel some type of way, or maybe it's just inspired to do that. So I think a lot of the youth out there, they're, again, like, stressed to have their cell phones right in their face, which, you know, technology does help as far as producing if you know how to do it and getting there as well. But I ultimately think the real reflectiveness for yourself, your individuality, and your artistry comes from your heart and your soul. And just keep it going, keep positive, try to have as optimistic of an attitude as you can with life, because life is a roller coaster. Life has its crazy way of throwing things at you, and you don't know how to react upon it, and you don't really know maybe how to grow with that. But again, that's where I personally know music has saved me, and music has helped me. So to any young viewers, any young aspiring artists, musicians, I encourage you, listen to your favorite artists. You know, try to sing as much as you want to of their music. Make it your own style. Sing Katy Perry in the shower as loud as you want to. Try to scream her lyrics. If you know, I kissed a girl and I liked it. Like, just scream it, you know, just get it out. Let it flow from your heart. And honestly, just don't be afraid to walk around and sing. Don't be afraid to write a note down on a Post-it note if you're at work, or don't be afraid to record something on your phone that you thought of, whether it be a thought or just an anecdote of the day that made you feel positive. You know, just keep the ideas flowing. And when you feel like you're at an inspiration halt, Look to other artists, watch their podcasts, go to YouTube, watch their videos, see what makes them flow. Meditate. Meditation helps bring a good sense of center to all of your chakras. And I think when I'm stressed out, meditating really helps me. Just keep being you.
I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from it, and I can remember this vividly, I was writing a blog about female sexual harassment with one of my younger sisters at the time, who was just turned 19. And the point of the post in the blog was basically saying, on her Tinder account, these were some of the most provocative messages that she received personally from other guys. And I used a photo of her on her Instagram, and it happened to be a photo of her in a bikini looking, very gorgeous as one would. And I got backlash from that post immediately from her mother, who was so appalled by it and missed the point of, just saying, I'm trying to defend these women. But I remember the first time that I experienced that backlash, instead of saying, oh no, I have a critic, I must have done something wrong, it was, for me, I immediately said, I just received backlash, I'm doing something right. And I think that gave me, if anything, a more burning fire to push and ultimately take that idea and make it bigger than what the picture was that I originally had. And I think the one that I made after that, because I ultimately did take that down out of respect for the family at the time, it blew up and went near viral on that end. So it was just something really where I took the first criticism that I've ever received and I used it in a positive. And I think that's what everybody should do, because you will get backlash. There are critics and there are mean people out there. That does not mean that they are right, and it does not mean that you have to listen to them.
I definitely agree. And on that note, being a female, it is hard to really be able to express yourself, whether it be styles that you wear, what you say in public. You're supposed to be modest to be considered not wrong, or if you show too much skin, you're considered a whore or whatever. Me personally, I know I've received a lot of criticism for things I'll wear to shows, and you know what? It sucks because I feel freaking awesome in what I wear, and I wear that outfit because I feel great, and I want to present myself in that sense. I'm not acting any behaviors upon that, and I don't mind the judgments and words of others, but I know sometimes it's hard for females to really not listen to the opinions of others and really just block it out. But it's the best thing to try to do, honestly. And body dysmorphia, it happens to a lot of us, and it's even happened to me before. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, why do I look this way? I want to look this way. And that I had to stop myself, because again, you're letting the opinions and the vultures get to you. And really, my advice on that note, fuck it. Be yourself. Wear what you want to wear. Go and express your sense of individuality. Go to shows. Wear that tank top. Wear those fishnets. Go to work and wear your collared button up. I'm the type of person, I wear button ups at my job. But by nighttime I might be in my PJs as soon as I go home, or I might be dressed up in my fishnets and my shorts and one of my band tees and going to shows, just because that's how I like to express myself. Feel yourself and only feel for you, and don't care what others think about you.
Kaitlyn, that was such a great point, and I'm so honored to be able to host this on your behalf and spend the quality time with you to hear you out and answer these in-depth questions for you. And with that being said, that is all I have, and I thank you very much for your time today.
Yes, thank you. And big shout out to everyone in the Cincy music scene. We are always looking for new artists, new bands. We're a big family, like Karsten mentioned earlier. I met Karsten at one of Q's first shows, and our good friend Sarah Tolley, she is an amazing angel, introduced us. And we are a nice niche family. I said a nice. We are nice. We are a nice knit family, and we're here for you. If we don't know you, we'll welcome you with open arms. Just talk to us how you would want to be talked to. Reach out if you want to come out and play shows, if you want to have a poetry reading, you know, if you want to drink Chick-fil-A waters with me via Skype, we can do that too. I mean, do whatever you want to do. Just be yourself. Always know that. And on that note, I do want to end this on the note of a couple of lyrics from my songs. And so it seems, you know, I had a part of you, but it left me. I'll always be with you. You're genuine to me. That is very expressionative, and I mean that to everyone, because I never forget a face. Every person to me is beautiful inside and out. Even if you throw toxicity at me, I'm going to reflect it with positivity, and I wish the world had more positivity. So everyone out there, have an amazing evening. I am going to debut And So It Seems from one of the shows I first played at the Thompson House in the ballroom. My hair was blue. So here is And So It Seems by Just Kaitlyn. We will be back in 5.
Here. My name's Kaitlyn, and this is Just Kaitlyn. Sitting here waiting as life passes by me, wondering if you even notice me. Breathe out slowly. Knowing that I matter counts. These empty smiles, they shout. Facing myself, I am here again. I thought I was your biggest fighter, but in fighting for you, I lost myself. Drowning in what seemed to be, you had me fooled and I was blind to see. Comparisons around something I could never be. I guess now I'll wake up from this dream. I traveled the world, LA had me, letting the ocean waves captivate schemes. Oh, the late night smoky lights. I just want you happy, myself aside. Even though I'm left without, you'll always be my favorite soliloquy. Without a doubt. I thought I was your biggest fight. stream. Oh, a part of you I'll always be. You'll always be my favorite memory. I had a part of you, but it left me. I thought I was your biggest fighter, but in fighting for you, I lost myself, drowning in what seemed to be. You had me fooled and I was blind to see. Comparisons around something I can never be. Guess now I'll wake up from this dream.
Hey, that was awesome.
And then for the B-side clip, be safe, wash your hands, stay inside.